and welcome to another episode of Todd Talk. Because when Todd talks, people listen. Hopefully. And it's been a while, and I apologize, but I also blame Death Battle because they had that month gap between the last episode and this episode because of sponsors. So I'm not going to blame them, harshly, but there's been a gap because of that. But now we're back, and we could talk about the very interesting matchup between Scrooge McDuck and Shovel Knight. To me, this is one of the most interesting matchups Death Battle's ever done because it's not, they need to do this matchup. This isn't like the previous matchup we had in Death Battle, Lara Croft, Nathan Drake, where it's just like, oh, these are two perfectly matched characters, this needs to happen, It's not like that because Shovel Knight isn't that well known. And he's only been around a few years, whereas Scrooge McDuck, if I remember correctly, has been around for like 50 or 60 years. If not longer. 70 years. He might be turning 70 this year, if I remember the Wikipedia correctly. So he's like one of the oldest cartoon characters versus Shovel Knight, who's one of the more relatively new video game franchises out there. And even though he's getting a lot of popularity now because of the Kickstarter, the numerous ports, the inclusion of the expanded content like Plague of Shadows and the Spectre of Torment, and obviously he's going to be a launch title on the Nintendo Switch. Do get that. He's still relatively new. So for Death Battle to think of this matchup is really cool because it shows that not only do they love Scrooge McDuck, but they love Shovel Knight. And they have. Listen to those recent Death Battle casts and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about there. So I want to start with Shovel Knight. Just because. He's an 8-bit character. He is a literal knight, and he lives in a world where he is a hero. And one day, while treasure hunting, his love of his life, Shield Knight, gets trapped in a tower, and he's unable to save her. And so he goes into reclusion and basically just uses his shovel to farm until he realizes one day, via this event, that the tower where Shield Knight was captured, or entrapped, I should say, opened up. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to get her back now. So he goes out and he, goes to save the day and save Shield Knight. For Shovel Knight, his weapon of choice is, wait for it, a shovel. Yeah! Gotta love the puns. But no, and it's much more than that, though. The shovel blade, which is what it's actually called, is a literal blade that is not only good for digging, but slicing enemies in twain. Like, all of them. He's seriously good at that. And not only that, he can bounce on the shovel like a pogo stick. And which is, gravity defying, physics defying, logic defying. But who cares? It's an 8-bit game. But seriously, this blade is seriously powerful. It's not even funny how powerful it is. And and even then, it has some upgrades. Let's see. There's like the drop spark, which when he's at full health, he pulls like a Legend of Zelda, and he can actually like fling projectiles. And he's got the charge handle where he can. I'm using my phone. Like literally charge up his blade to do extra damage, and that gives him some pretty big edges in my mind. But that's not all. The other thing is, because this is an 8-bit game in the style of like Mega Man, he has what he calls relics that he can use in the game to both advance through levels and to beat bosses. And he's got quite a good number of them. I've got them right here. He's got the Flare Wand, which can fling fire. He's got the Phase Locket, which can let him phase through objects and become invincible for a short time. He has Dust Knuckles, which can help him shatter just about anything that he can't break with his shovel blade. He's got the Throwing Anchor, which is an anchor that you can throw. Brilliant. He's got Mobile Gear, which helps him in certain situations. He's got the Propeller Dagger, which can actually like grab onto stuff and allow him to fly short distances. He's got the Chaos Sphere, which is a very damaging item. And then, arguably his most important thing, the War Horn. The War Horn instantly kills anything within its range. Now, it has a range that can't be stated enough, but if it is within range, it's insta-death. Now, I don't know how well that works against boss characters. I honestly have not played Shovel Knight. I'm going to, though, on the Nintendo Switch. But still, when the wiki says it's insta-death, I believe it's insta-death. So yeah. Now, the other interesting thing that needs to be noted is that Shovel Knight technically has had one game. Yes, there's like expansions and all that, but he only has one game, and because of that, he has only a set amount of feats. Now, these are very impressive feats because in order to, beat the game or whatever, he had to defeat a literal rogues gallery of enemy knights, including like Spectre Knight, Plague Knight, Tin Knight, and Black Knight. Not to mention the Enchantress, who is the big bad boss of the game. And so good as Shovel Knight, not only did he defeat these foes, he technically defeated all of them twice in the course of one game on his own. I mean, there is co-op in certain versions of it, including the upcoming version for the Switch, but the whole point of the game is you are just Shovel Knight, and with these abilities, with these feats, you are on your own, and you have to defeat them. So Shovel Knight is no pushover. He is a very noble knight. He is a very kind knight. He's always up for helping people, but his focus is treasure and shield knight, and not in that order. It's actually shield knight and treasure. So this is not one that you want to mess with. How will that fare against a certain duck? Well, let's just get into it. But when I did like the reveal of Scrooge McDuck last time, I did something and I only did it like part way, so I'm gonna have to do it a little bit better this time. So I'm gonna ask you to indulge me, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize, but I just can't help myself. Maestro? Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a Duckler. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. It's DuckTales. Woo! Every day they're out there making DuckTales. Woo! Tales of daring do that and good DuckTales. Dun, 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 dun. There's danger, watch behind you. There's a stranger out inside you. What's new? Just grab onto the DuckTales. Woo-hoo. Every day they're out there making DuckTales. Woo-hoo. Tales of daring do that and good DuckTales. Woo-hoo. And now comedy tales of cottontails, no DuckTales. Woo-hoo. Yeah, like I said, I couldn't help myself. So, but yes, the one, the only Scrooge McDuck, ladies and gentlemen, is in a death battle. Now, on the surface, especially when you hear me break down Shovel Knight like I did, you're probably thinking there is no way this duck can beat this knight. And you may be right. But this is no ordinary duck. As I've said, if I remember correctly, he's between 60 and 70 years old in history from when he's created to now, give or take. And that's a lot of stuff to write about. He's still having stuff made about him, including the DuckTales remake that's coming this year. And, DuckTales as a cartoon had 100 episodes and a movie, and there's his comics, and there's the spin-off comics and shows he was in. That's a lot of history. And I couldn't even dream of looking up all that was in there. But I did find some interesting things. Number one, Scrooge is not an idiot. He's usually defined as a miser, before DuckTales especially. And, he's a money hoarder. He has the money bin, as he is known for. He's so rich that no one could actually technically calculate how rich he is. As even noted in the Desk of Death Battle episode. Hi, Jocelyn. So, he's insanely rich. But how did he get insanely rich? Well, he's a businessman, but also he's a treasure hunter. And that's a key thing here, because he's had to use his mind to solve puzzles get treasure, and beat bad guys. You don't think of Scrooge McDuck as a fighter. He actually is a fighter. He's actually pretty good at fighting things, as shown in the DuckTales video game and remastered video game, where he actually used his cane to beat the living crap out of a bunch of monsters and bad guys. And like Shovel Knight, he uses his cane as a pogo stick. And that right there is how they got connected: treasure hunting and pogo sticking. I'm just saying. And so and he can jump on that thing pretty dang high. Like, he uses that pogo stick or that cane pogo stick to, jump pretty high. But also, because of his treasure hunting and because of his obsession with money, he uses that money to kind of go overboard on security. And if you saw the recent Death Battle cast, you'll see that we are having this battle in Scrooge McDuck's house. Now, you might think that's cheating or a home field advantage turf kind of thing, but I need you to remember something. Part of Scrooge McDuck's character is what he does in his house and in the money bin, okay? So technically, while you think it may be cheating that we're going to home turf and presumably getting a whole bunch of special weapons and abilities because he's in his home, this is part of Scrooge McDuck's character. You can take the world away from Shovel Knight and he's still Shovel Knight, okay? But if you take, Scrooge out of his home, it's not the same, especially since, he's a treasure trover of his own, and he keeps all his stuff in his house and protects it like nobody's business. In fact, in a show called Raw Tunage, Scrooge McDuck actually tested a security system that was designed to protect his money bin. And Scrooge, throughout the episode, brought in more and more insane ways to break into his vault. This is all stuff he has on hand. And because of the compilation of his life, that's a lot of stuff to have. I mean, you've seen that he has cannons. You've seen that he has guns of a sort, of a small sort. But he's got all these security measures, and since it's in his house, and we're dealing with basically Shovel Knight breaking into his house, Scrooge is not going to be happy, and Scrooge is going to literally let loose on him. Now it's specifically stated that Scrooge McDuck does not like to kill people. He's very much Batman in that regard. But this is Death Battle, so that that goes away. And so thus everything that is within his house, that is in his arsenal, is officially available to use. Not that he needs it. No, he really doesn't. Apparently, one time in the comics, Scrooge McDuck had his first gold nugget stolen. Not smart. And so he found it in this bar, and upon finding it and finding the hoodlum that took it, he quite literally took a chair and beat the living daylights out of everyone in that bar. And it was at least 20, 30 guys with a chair. Yeah, this is Scrooge McDuck, ladies and gentlemen. And again, you might think that he hasn't really dealt with as many bad guys, but that's not exactly true. Again, between DuckTales and his comic adventures, he's had to face quite a few foes. Now, yes, in those cartoons and comics, he's never had to kill anyone, unlike Shovel Knight, who, you kill monsters by the hundreds. But the point here is that he has faced bad guys. He has outsmarted bad guys. He deals with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I mean, that should give him an edge on his own. He deals with Huey, Dewey, and Louie every day, especially in DuckTales. So he's dealt with quite a lot. So this is not as lopsided as you might think. Now, how does this compare to Shovel Knight? This is probably one of the hardest ones I've ever had to do, because I have loyalty to one, but I also am very impressed by what I found out about another. Shovel Knight, based on what I've seen, has the best gear technically, because he has long-range weapons, he has short-range weapons, and he has that war horn, which is apparently insta-death, which could be like the Joker Venotoxin, where all he has to do is get close enough to Scrooge McDuck, blow that war horn, and it's game over. But Scrooge McDuck is one crafty duck. He he is willing to do anything to protect his money and protect his family. He once got amnesia, and when he found out what was happening to his company, he realized what he had to do. He drove a scooter into a brick wall just so he could knock the sense back into him, remember who he is, and kick an imposter who was trying to be him out of his company. He swims in gold. Yeah, you all know the scene. You all know the scene. He jumps into the money pit. That's not as easy as it might look. Okay, because that's gold, and that gold is heavy, and that's stuff he swims around. He uses his duck arms to swim through. That's no small feat. And the other thing is that despite Shovel Knight being very, very powerful, he doesn't have the history. Yes, he's beaten like all the evil knights and the what was like the remnant of evil or something like that. He's beaten all those other knights twice. But Scrooge has been doing stuff for 60, 70 years. That just doesn't go away. And so because of like how in depth Death Battle is, they're gonna have to look up everything that Scrooge McDuck has done and compare that to Shovel Knight. And something tells me, despite this is one of the few times I'm actually going against my gut feeling, because my gut says because of Shovel Knight's gear that he's going to be Scrooge McDuck. But because of the history factor, I truly think that Scrooge McDuck is going to pull this out. I don't know how, per se. I mean, he could blow him to Kingdom Come. He could have a defense system that could eradicate Shovel Knight. I don't know. But I am going against my gut here, and I am going to say that Scrooge McDuck is going to beat Shovel Knight. That is my official pick. And we only have a few more days to wait, so we will see if I go 2-0 or 1-1. I hope for the former. And so, with that, I will end this 40th episode of Todd Talk. Who do you have in the battle between Scrooge McDuck and Shovel Knight? Do you have the duck? Do you have the knight? Do you have the cane? Or do you have the shovel? Please let me know. And let me know who you want to see for the next death battle, because it's going to be a 3D fight, so who we're going to get. So, thank you for watching. If you made this far, I know you were listening, and I will see you around.